Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. It's Friday, week 16. Merry Christmas to every single one of you. Comes right after NFL this week. I won't see you again until Christmas time, essentially. So I want to wish you a Merry Christmas if I don't catch you until then. We're going to take your questions here to figure out what the best lineup combinations. My Twitch chat is going to ask questions for about the next hour. I'm going to give you my best answers that I have right now. Now, here's the thing. I'm not giving you lineups. I've had to restate this numerous times over the course of this year and last year and the last 6 years. I'm here to help you make decisions, okay? So you guys give me questions that you have of the slate, or you have of the lineups you're building, or strategy questions, bankroll questions, any of those sorts of things, and I will give you the best answer that I can possibly give. Sometimes people ask those questions because they want confirmation on players that they already have in their lineup. Sometimes people are legitimately having a tough choice choosing between those two guys, but you have to take ownership over the lineups that you submit finally to DraftKings. I'm not running around to everybody's house, sneaking down chimneys, clicking submit on their lineups. That is not what I do. There is another fat man that does that. I'm a different fat man. I do something completely different. I'm here to help teach you how to fish. I'm not here to just give you a big plate and let you sit down and eat. So we're going to work for it. We're going to try to get better every single stream. That's what we do every single week. That's what we want to do. Improve one day to the next, learn something new every single day, and apply it to our game and to our process to try and get better week after week after week. If you want to follow me on any of my other socials, or join us here on Twitch for the next live stream where I record most of the videos that I produce on this YouTube channel, they're right below in the description. Just click show more and you can click on all those different links and get to where you got to get. Like the video, subscribe, notification, blah, 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 blah. Let's bring the chat in. Let's talk to them. Do I think the same thing that happened with Pat Steelers can happen with Saints Steelers? I mean, it can. Both of them have solid defenses. There might be kind of that first round of a boxing match when you got two guys out there that can slug and they just get into that jab fest early and they start just feeling each other out and they don't really know, and like that first quarter is slow. But there's some deficiencies on both of those offenses, and now we are going to have to determine whether it's going to be fast or slow. It is easily the highest totaled game on the slate. Okay, by a big margin. The Panthers game was close, and then Cam Newton was determined to be out for that game, and it dropped the total massively by 7 points from open to where it is kind of now. So it being the latest game, and it having some of the biggest playmakers in that game who can get you a bonus on DraftKings, as well as touchdowns and all the other types of scoring they can get, as well as their high floor from carries, targets, and everything else. That's really what we're looking for out of that game, if you can get it. Not a bad game to stack as well. We're going to have to stay tuned all weekend long for the Juju Smith-Schuster, unless I missed something this morning. I know he got hurt in practice the other day, but that's something we're going to have to wait on to find out what his actual level of usefulness is going to be for that game. But I doubt it's going to be a 17-14 slugfest. I think it's more likely to be 35-33 than that. First of all, let's get back to this. Arisis, thank you very much. If I pronounced that wrong, I apologize. For the 3 months of support in a row, using Twitch Prime, subbing absolutely free. Thoughts on Jalen Samuels versus Jamal Williams? I prefer Jamal Williams, but I understand going with Jalen Samuels because of the last couple of weeks. If Connor is still out, the game is a likely shootout. However, it's a dog running back on the road against a really stingy defense against the run. Now, he's not going to get the 20-something carries he got last week. He is going to be involved in the passing game. I think the price has come up where it's a bit restrictive now. He's GPP only for me, not somebody I'm considering for cash. If Juju's out, is James Washington viable in cash? If Juju's out, James Washington should see a big bump in targets, but Vance McDonald should also see a little bit of a bump in targets. They might run a little bit more two tight end, making Jesse James a little bit more viable as well. I'm not expecting James Washington to get like 8 or 9 targets, but he's a very good receiver who runs good routes and is very good on contested catches, though I don't see him running from the slot all that much, but Juju's been doing much better work on the outside since he's been running most of his routes from the outside recently. What's with the new chair? Well, we're now sponsored by Secret Lab, exclamation point chair in the chat. And I'll put something down below in YouTube as well if you want to go check out the Secret Lab chairs and help support the channel, help support the stream. How many carries for Kalen Ballage this weekend? I'm going to say 15 touches. Frank Gore had been getting about 14. The Dolphins don't really seem all that interested in getting Kenyon Drake the ball, with single-digit carries or single-digit touches in his last 5 or 6 games. They're not really trying to get him the ball, even with Frank Gore being out. Not a situation where they're going to say, well, he's out, so now let's just promote him. So they want to see what they have in Balaj. They're going to give him the ball a little bit. They're just not a team that runs the ball 25 times with one guy. So, I don't know, 12 to 16 touches seems about fair for 3,700, but it's a tough matchup. Steve, thank you very much for the 100 bits. Need some clarity, not charity, although he did use the hashtag charity, on the high-priced wide receivers, if you will. Yeah, I can take a look at them real quick. Let me go over here. Let me go over here. What do you want to know? Like, what do you, which ones are my favorites? I mean, DeAndre Hopkins and Michael Thomas, probably my 2 favorites. Antonio Brown comes in around 3rd in there. Rodgers is playing, so Devontae Adams has just been a machine. Even when you don't expect him to be a machine, he's just been a machine against Chicago Bears. Atlanta's been weaker against outside than they have been previously. Arizona tough, Minnesota tough. He just keeps scoring. There was that stat coming into the year that Aaron Rodgers, wide receiver 1, has had 12-plus touchdowns pretty much every season that he's been the starter or played over X amount of games, and it happened again this year with Devontae Adams. I was trying to invest more in him in best ball, but couldn't quite get things to fall right for me to get him to come back to me on the second round. But Devontae Adams still in play this week. Juju Smith-Schuster, we're definitely going to have to monitor as the weekend goes on. Did not practice on Friday, which is usually a bad sign. If you don't practice on Friday, you typically don't play on Sunday. This could be a special situation because of the injury that he sustained in practice on Thursday. Monitor the inactives. We might not know this before lock. This is the 20-minute hammer. Okay, this game does kick off at 4:25 Eastern time, which is 20 minutes after the other games kick off on Sunday afternoon. So they don't really have to let us know until 90 minutes before that game kicks off. We may not know by the time the games lock on Sunday morning. If you're going to play Juju Smith-Schuster and try and leverage the field there, if you think that he's going to be okay in tournaments only, set up a pivot for him, leave money on the table to pivot to another wide receiver, or set up a 2v2 where if he's not going to go, you have something left to pivot to if you want to try and gamble with Juju Smith-Schuster's health. That's really the only way to play him. I'm probably not going to have any, if I am going to have any, it's going to be a very small amount. But in the lineups that I have, I'm going to have my 1v1 or 2v2s planned to get out from under him in the case that he is inactive, which is definitely a possibility. You're thinking Jets D against Packers? Why? Are they why? They're 2,200. You're just looking for like a bargain basement defense? I mean, in that case, why not the Lions D against Minnesota at 2,100 and at home? And you know that they're going to have to throw the ball. The Lions have been much better defensively against the run. Minnesota wants to run the ball a ton right now at this point in the season, even though they've attempted a ton of passes on the year. Their passing game a lot more shaky now than it was before. And with Dalvin Cook back, they want to run it a lot. Play the Falcons at 2,300 against Carolina. Exactly. Like, why the Jets there against Green Bay? Hogan thoughts. People are going to want to click him as a salary saver. I don't disagree. I think that there's plenty of wide receivers that are cheap-ish and cheap enough to fit the guys that we want and or need in our lineups, right? We've talked about them on the first look. I wrote a couple up in Best Buys. We have Dante Pettis. We have Anderson. We have Alshon Jeffrey, who are somewhat cheap options. We have a couple of cheap tight end options as well. There's plenty of cheap quarterbacks if you want to look there as a saver. Defense doesn't really cost you all that much. Coming down to somebody like Hogan, absolute boom or bust play with Gordon in or with Gordon out. Obviously, Gordon's out, but it's not like it moves Hogan to a guy who's suddenly going to get 8 or 9 targets. Not with Edelman there, and not with Gronk healthy, and not with White still there, and not with all the other guys that are healthy again. He's a 4, maybe upside a 5 or 6 target guy, and needs to catch a long touchdown to be viable here, in my opinion. He did that the other game, but he had like 3 targets that game. I don't want to mess around in my cash game lineups with a salary saver who most likely projects as a 3-target guy. Heineke and cash. I always think of that line from Stripes when I see that kid's name. Barnicky? Guy owes me money. He's min salary. I don't know that he's needed. I know people are going to click him, right? I do. I know people are going to click him. But when you have Darnold at 49 against Green Bay that's been as giving as he's been, you have Eli Manning, who has not been terrible at 4,800. He's had some good games in there, right? No ceiling games, but you're not going to get a ceiling game from guys that are under 4K. Nick Foles at 47, right? If you like Alshon Jeffrey and think that he has multiple touchdown upside, or if he has one touchdown and Ertz has one touchdown, that means that you got 2 touchdowns out of Foles at 4,700. Nick Mullins has been very good for the money, albeit in a very tough matchup, but at home. For the salary, he has done just fine. I don't know that we need to get all the way down here to 4K to roster Heineke. I guess I'm okay with it in tournaments. I don't think it's at all necessary in cash games. Chubb in cash, I do think he's a very cash game viable running back this week. Jeffrey, Anderson, and Michael Thomas are go Foster, Jeffrey, and Michael Thomas. So basically, Jeffrey and Anderson or Foster and Jeffrey. So basically, Foster or Anderson. I would probably like the one with Jeffrey, Anderson, and Michael Thomas. I think those three out of Anderson and Foster, give me Anderson over Foster. We need some sad faces in the chat for the death of Aaron Jones week. Who is the cheapest wide receiver you're comfortable with in cash? Those 4K guys are fine. Dallas tight end, GPP, whatever his name is. Schultze? That guy? Lowest cash game QB, maybe Darnold. I mean, I think the 3 that I mentioned up there between Darnold and Wentz and not Wentz, Darnold and Foles and Mullins would be the 3, and they're all kind of in the same range. What do you think about slot wide receivers against Pittsburgh, Kirkwood or maybe Smith? Yeah, but again, you're looking at somebody that might get 3, maybe 4 targets. GPP only if you're going that route. Michael Thomas or DeAndre Hopkins? I prefer Michael Thomas. I'll take the savings. And then the narrative stuff on top, the anecdotal stuff on top of it, right? So you get 500 off going from D. Hopkins down to Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas against Pittsburgh does look like it would be a situation where he fares well. He does have massive home road splits that go along with the Drew Brees home road splits. This does look like a spot where he could possibly go off. Philly is very attackable. This is not detracting from DeAndre Hopkins, but you're asking me to pick one versus the other. That 500 does go a long way this week. Has there been any late week indication of CMC's usage? Nope. No indication up or down. Marlon Mack smash spot? Why? Why is this? See, this is the whack-a-mole situation that I was talking about on Daily Fantasy Edge. Everybody's looking at this and seeing this and seeing that he's been better at home. Yes, the matchup with the Giants is very good. Okay, I agree. The matchup is very good. 139 yards rushing the last game. 27 carries. When's the last time he got 20 touches? Oh, look, it was way back in week 8. Okay? He got week 8, week 7, he got 20 touches. He's had it, 3 times so far this year? He is way more likely to have 15 to 17 touches than he is to have 20 to 27 touches. And it's much tougher for somebody like Marlon Mack on 15 to 17 touches to get you 25 DraftKings points. So everybody's looking for that repeat of last week in a game where they got up quickly and early and then just sat on it and fed him the ball. If New York can score touchdowns, and judging by the way that the Giants play with the players that they have available to them this weekend and the weaknesses that Indy has defensively that play right into those things, I think that the Giants should be able to score a couple of touchdowns in this one, which is going to force Indy to keep their foot on the throttle, which is going to make Marlon Mack the guy that Marlon Mack has been for the 3 weeks prior to the Dallas blow-up in games that were a little bit closer, where they go with Naheem Hines a little bit more, where they pass the ball to Eric Ebron a little bit more. All those things didn't happen last week because they got up massively early and then just sat on it. You prefer Jamal Williams to Mack? Yeah, I would say that. I don't think it's like a landslide. I kind of have them very close. I just don't think Mack is what he was last week. Could it happen again? Most definitely. Andrew Luck could throw for 2 touchdowns on their first 2 drives, and the Giants could, Eli could just Eli himself away, and then they score another field goal, or they get a turnover, a kick return for a touchdown, an interception. Now it's 21-0, and then it's Marlon Mack game script all over the place. Do I buy CJ Anderson getting the workload if Gurley misses? I don't think Gurley's going to miss, one. So that's kind of where I'm at, UNC. Like, I'd be shocked if Gurley misses this game. It doesn't mean it won't happen. I think that they still need to book one more win. And if they book that one more win, he gets 2 weeks off. So I think he plays this week, and maybe he doesn't get the volume that he typically gets in these spots. But this is a very high volume, very high leverage spot for any running back against Arizona, especially favored as much as they are. Thoughts on Heineke impacting CMC's usage? Positive, negative, neutral for me. CMC gets 13 to 15 carries a game. That's not impossible to do with anybody at quarterback. And he gets 6 to 8 targets a game. Heineke is probably not going to be the guy that's going to just look to attack and stretch the field and hit everybody 40, 50 yards downfield. He's probably going to hit a lot of short passes, a lot of dump offs, and a lot of screens. So I think that the volume for somebody like Christian McCaffrey should remain somewhat similar. Now, the question is, will his efficiency remain at the levels that it was at with Cam there? And I don't know. Woods week, it does appear to be that way. He's probably my favorite Ram this week. Any risk in sitting any starters we should consider this week? Well, it kind of happened to us last week with Fournette, right? Where they ran him 13 times in the first half and then once in the second half because they wanted to give a long look to guys. I think it's more likely with teams at the bottom of the standings right now than it is with teams near the top of the standings, because everybody's still playing for something. Nobody's slotted, right? The Bears and the Rams both have to win. They're not going to sit dudes. It's just not going to happen. If they're healthy enough to go, the Rams' magic number is 1. They got to win 1 game. If they win 1 game, they get home field. They're going to try and win. They're going to get that bye week. They're going to do what they have to do. Saints still trying to win. Steelers trying to win. Every good team is still trying to win. Week 17, most definitely. Week 16, not so much. Kamara, Chubb, and Cash. I think that Chubb is a little bit safer based on his volume. Kamara's got to be efficient, and he's got to be used around the goal line. I do think that his targets give him a good floor, possibly a better floor than Chubb, but that matchup for Chubb at home, and I expect him to get 20 to 25 touches with touchdown upside, is good. He might get 2 or 3 targets where Kamara might get 6 to 9, which would be nice. So teams out of the playoffs. Yeah, so like the 49ers, right? They're kind of resting Marquise Goodwin, and Pettis is getting like over 90% of the snaps. Fournette, very dangerous this week. Price has been dropped. He may not play all that much the entire game. He won't see his 25 carries. He might. He also might not. We just don't know, and they're not being very forthcoming with how they're going to utilize him. Sonic Librarian, thank you very much for the 100 bits. $1,500, or the $15 milli structure is gross. Slant seems better. Slant's always better. Any thoughts on GPP game selection this week? Well, this is championship week for DK. Week 16's always been championship week for DK. So they have the $5 million main event, which is $1,500. If you're a big baller, if you got all the crowns out there, if you got tickets or won satellites, whether it was an NFL or an MLB or not MLB, but NBA, and you've got tickets that you can get into that one, go ahead and get in. You're trying to win $1 million. And it's $250K to second, $200K to third, $150 to, the payout structure is really good for a $1,500 tournament, assuming that 20% of the prize pool is going to first place, which is way more palatable to me than 33%. I like a $5 million Millie Maker is a lot better than a $3 million Millie Maker. Now you're talking about the 15. The 15 is $1 million to first, right? So it's a cheaper Millionaire Maker than there is every week, and it's a bad payout structure. It's a promotional tournament. Always look at a Millionaire Maker as a promotional tournament. Okay? So with that much money up top, you're really only trying to win the $1 million. You're not saying, well, if I come in 15th, I'm going to be all right. No, you got to win. Okay? So this one's got, 196,000 of your closest friends are going to be entering that tournament trying to win $1 million. Of course, the payout structure isn't going to be as good as like the Saturday 8 reindeer special, right? $800,000, $150K to first, $5K to 10th. The Wildcat, $600K on the weekend, $100K to first, $5K to 10th. You guys know what I prefer. I always look at the tournaments this way. I want whatever the prize pool is, I want 10% of the prize pool to go to first place. I want 10% of first place to go to 10th place, and I want it to pay out 18 to 20% of the field, which likely means that if you min cash, you double your entry fee. That's my dream payout. That's my favorite one. Going to be playing the 5 Millionaire DK game? Obviously. Am I using my crowns in the 1500 seat? Probably I'll get one. I think that gets you one, right? Got about 600,000 crowns. Might not even be enough. I don't think it is. I think that's about $900 or $1,000 worth of crowns. Might not be enough for a seat. I'll just buy in. I don't know how many lineups I'm going to put in, though. I might put 5. I might put 10. The first one that they did back in 2013, I had 14 seats. That's the one I came in second place. DK's been doing a lot of less than 2x min cash tournaments you do not like. I mean, here's the thing. DK seems to want to have a big prize up top, like 100K plus up top. So they usually go for like 20% or 25% to first place. And they want to pay out like 25% of the field. So the longer you stretch that payout arc, the harder it is to double the min cash. And that's why I like the 18 to 20. Nihal with one team in the 1500. I hope you do well, man. Good luck. Lots of crowns, yeah. Foles cash game viable? I think so. Speaking of GPP theory, if you don't max enter, are you doing it wrong? No. Not at all. You don't have to max enter. I'm probably not I don't think that it's wrong to single enter, but I'm probably not going to single enter a massive tournament that's got like, 100,000 entries in it. The lowest I'll go is 3, right? Because that gives me my primary lineup, a quick switch off my primary lineup, a 2v2 or a 3v3 off of that one, or a game stack if I choose that direction, and then a GPP lineup where I can try and leverage the field at a couple of different spots. And play different, like if everybody's going to pay up at running back, I'll pay up at wide receiver and look for a different route to creating my $50,000 lineup for that day in salary that's going to still give me good spots, right? So like Antonio Brown and Michael Thomas and DeAndre Hopkins are very good plays this week. Most lineups, not most like 51%, but like 90+% of lineups will not have 2 of that 3 guys in one lineup. They just won't, because you can't pay up for 2 running backs if you do that.
Been running hot on sub giveaway day, so giving
That's right.
back a little. Happy holidays to UL #charity.
Thank you very much, Jay Cuddleife, for the 1,000 bits and using the hashtag charity. Has won 2 of our straight raffles. Not 2 straight, but 2 raffles in the last 3 weeks on sub giveaway day, which is Monday on stream, where we spin the wheel and then give money away. Raider Nation, thank you very much for the 300 bits. Also using the hashtag charity. Says Kittle or Ertz for GPP. I think I like Ertz better. I think they're going to have similar ownership. I'm probably going to go with Ertz in that situation. Baby, stop crying. Things are improving. Small steps. Just baby steps. That's all you need. Every time my wife and I are out with the kids and we see like a baby crying, because my kids are now about to be 7 and 9 years old. So like they just kind of take care of themselves at this point. Like they play their own games. They do their stuff. Obviously they still need us a lot, but like they're growing. They don't need you to like feed them and wipe their butt anymore. So we see like a kid walk by us that's crying with their mom, just screaming their face off, right? And the parent is sweating, just upset. I look at my wife, I'm like, that was us. That was just, wasn't that long ago either. It gets better, man. It definitely gets better. Correct look at the statistics about ROI and a number of entries. Wait, what? What did I miss? I missed something from Razzles, but I don't know what I missed. Any interest in Engram this week with OBJ out? Yes. Team total is low, but usage is high. And look back at last year when everybody was out, what Engram did. Now, they've added a very high volume pass catcher, 20+%. 20 to 25% of the target market share does go to Saquon Barkley, but not out of the realm to expect 20% market share to go now to Evan Engram, which will be up from like the 11 or 12 that he's had on the season with OBJ there. Now, OBJ out. That is going to kind of shift somewhere. Everybody in multiple different areas thought it was going to go to Sterling Shepard, and I tried to walk you guys back off of that last weekend. More likely that it goes to somebody like Evan Engram, who to me is more featureable, if we can make that word up. And at 4,600 isn't all that tough to fit into your lineup. So he could put up a day like Eric Ebron or Gronk at 57 or 56, or Zach Ertz at 59, but only be 4,600. And you know they're going to have to throw. You know it's good weather. You know, they're playing in a dome, so not a terrible thing. Does Cam out hurt McCaffrey? I don't think it hurts his volume. I think it hurts his efficiency. Close up of the cry. Don't need the max center. ROI been better at 25 to 50 versus 150 max a lot of times. Yes. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, if you're going in 150 times on a tournament, and this has been such a common misconception for the entirety of the time that sites went to like unlimited entries, 500 entries, 150 entries, whatever they've had. Playing 150 entries does not mean that you're going to be profitable. And there's been plenty of studies to show that, and people still cross their arms and go, nope, then why do you play 150 entries? I play 150 entries because I'm trying to win $1 million. It gives me a better chance at having one of those lineups come in all the way up top. It also gives the people that play 150 lineups a much better chance at losing money on that day. So while you increase your chances of coming in first from like 0.0000001% to 0.000000012%, you know, it's not increasing your chances by this vast amount. But coming from somebody who's come in first in a Millie Maker with 150 entries and second in another Millie Maker with what, 14 entries? It can be done either way. Bottom line, every single person that's won a Millie Maker ever in the history of Millionaire Makers has scored more points than everybody else in that tournament. And it had nothing to do with how many entries they had. That's all that matters. Score all the points. It's Cooper week. It's Cooper yo-yo week, right? So like he had a terrible week and then he had a good week. And then he had a terrible week, and then he had a good week, and then last week he had a terrible week. So the yo-yo says that Amari Cooper is going to have a good week this week. Engram cash game viable? I don't know if you can fit him. But you might. I mean, thoughts on de Bellagio. I think it's about 15 carries. I think they're going to be low efficiency carries against Jacksonville. Now, if he busts one like he did last week, fine. But like, it's very realistic to think he might have like 14 carries for like 38 yards. Score all the points. Rule number 1, score more points than everybody else. Works every time. Scoring more points than everybody else is exactly the Sex Panther of daily fantasy. 60% of the time, if you score more points than everybody else, it works every time. If you don't play Vance, how do you get a piece of that game with a stud running back? Play Kamara. If Juju's out, play James Washington. What is Washington's price? Why can't I remember? James Washington's 3,100 if Juju's out. You know? So that's how you get exposure to this game. If Juju Smith-Schuster is ruled out early, James Washington becomes a plug and play at 3,100. That's illegal in 9 states. Smells musky. What about Eli Rogers? They came out using him on that first drive last week. He's maybe. Yeah, Eli Rogers slides into the slot, not JW. But if you look back at the last 3-4 weeks, Juju Smith-Schuster has been playing a lot of the time not in the slot. He's been playing outside. And his numbers, since he started playing outside, jumped. Like, so he's been doing a lot of work not in the slot for the last month. Narrative, Devontae Adams needs 13 catches to break Sterling Sharp's single-season Packers record. He has 2 games to do it, though. 205 receiving yards to break Jordy Nelson's franchise mark. I mean, they do have 2 games left. You know, if it was week 17 right now, I think that narrative would come into play. Jalen Samuel and GPP. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Totally fine with Jalen Samuel and GPP. New Orleans has been very stingy against running backs in all sorts of ways. They've been stingy in the pass game. They've been stingy in the run. They're one of the best defenses against running backs on the year. A lot of it, not a lot of it. Okay, one, they're not a bad defense, but some of it comes down to game flow as well. They've had some games where they are just outscoring people and you can't stick with the running game. So running backs aren't doing a ton. But they're also not catching a lot of passes against them either. First thing I did this week was X out Sterling Shepard. Screw that guy. I mean, I mean no harm to Sterling Shepard. He's a good NFL player. Sterling Shepard is a better NFL player than a fantasy player. And that's not a knock on him. Like somebody's going to clip this and then at Sterling Shepard. See what Smith said about you? He's a very good NFL player. But that doesn't always translate to being, you know, a great fantasy player. We need guys that just pile up stats. That's all we want. Thoughts on Saints D? I think it's in play. Where's their price? 2,300. Yeah, I think they're in play. Who's the wide receiver cash play between 4,500 and 5,500? There's 2 in that range that would probably stand out better than anybody else. One's Alshon Jeffrey, and the other one is Robbie Anderson. Is CJA washed? Unfortunately, probably. People chasing with Dalvin this week versus tough Detroit run defense. Yeah. That was what I was getting at earlier, Nate, is that Detroit's run defense, if you look at it seasonally, if you look at it on the entire year, it's like, oh, they're pretty susceptible to opposing running backs on a defense versus position standpoint. However, if you look at what's happened to that defense, they were like the 3rd worst defense against running backs, right? Like very, very giving to running backs before the Snacks Harrison trade. And since the Snacks Harrison trade, they're now the 9th best defense against the run. So that whole team has just pulled a 180 with the addition of one lineman that just stuffs the run. It allows everybody else to do their job a little bit easier. One guy can have that sort of effect on the D-line. And so teams are now throwing more against Detroit, as before they were having so much success running the ball. Now they're not having that success running the ball. CJ is with the Rams now. MVS and slot versus Jets D. Yeah, I see that. I'm good with that. Washington and Rodgers only 100 apart, so it really matters what you believe the game script will be. I'm going to go with talent in that situation. I think Washington's a much more talented receiver than Rodgers. It's the Adam Levitan approach, right? Like, do you want to play the guy that you think is safe, or do you want to go with the guy that has 2 touchdown upside? And Washington, out of those 2 guys, is the one who's much greater for having a 2 touchdown upside. Am I going to do any videos for tomorrow's games? I was going to, and then I looked at the slate, and it's like everybody's going to have the same lineup. So I kind of decided not to on the Saturday slate. Like, Saturday is literally all the people. Like, Eckler's out, so you're going to play Melvin Gordon. You're going to play Henry. You're going to play Lamar Jackson. You're going to play Gus. You're going to play... the lineup makes itself. So, like, there's literally no reason for me to do... And I had... Pin Monkey made a thumbnail, and I know that Pin Monkey gets upset when I don't use the thumbnail. He's like, I did the thumbnail. You got to do a video. And I understand that, but at the same time... Do people really need for me to tell them to play the most obvious plays on a slate that has 2 games? There's like 6 running backs on the entire slate, and 3 of them stand out more than the other ones. There's 1 quarterback, maybe 2 if you consider Rivers in there. Randall Cobb doubtful. MVS to the rescue. Yep. Don't even play tomorrow. You've been debating tomorrow's games. Yeah, I mean, I think Showdown, there's always dead money on Showdown slates just from a general GPP standpoint, right? People are learning, but so many people play it wrong that there's dead money. The rake is already paid into those Showdown slates by people that are playing those tournaments wrong. So you look at the same guys are pretty much winning all the Showdown slates. And it's not the usual cast of characters that people see on the top of the DFS rankings or the DFS Tournament Player of the Year rankings. It's not those guys. It's this whole new cast of characters that came in on the first year of Single Game Showdown and have been absolutely smashing Single Game Showdown all year long. And I've done what I can to try and learn from the way that they're doing things in those lineups. We've got a couple of them in our Discord. Xandermere, one of our mods on the channel, has been doing exceptionally well. And he's always in the Discord for the Subs NFL channel. You can get in there and talk to him about how he's attacking. Drewby from Daily Roto, ! Daily Roto in the chat, does all of their Showdown emails, and he has just been smashing Showdown. He's probably up over 500,000 on Showdown this season. Every single Showdown says, like, yep, Drewby won again. So there's ways that you can go about it, but a lot of people are going about it wrong, and that's creating the rake's already paid by people that are just playing it incorrectly. And I try to do the best that I can on it. I won a Showdown slate earlier this year, but I don't really play them all that much. But there's guys that have been really crushing it, and I try to take my cues from them. Absolutely play tomorrow. Fire away, boys. Primetime greater than Showdown? They still have the primetime slate, though. It's just not as GPP heavy, right? KSCO Matt. Thank you very much for the tier 1 sub. Appreciate you. Welcome to the VIP. Buddy of mine says there is zero luck involved in fantasy. No, there's luck involved. I mean, saying that there's no luck is incorrect. There's also luck in poker. But there is a skill in both, because the same guys can't show up at the final table all the time because they're just way luckier than you. Luck evens its way out over time. I am no more lucky than any other person that's ever played daily fantasy. Right? The Burrito Brothers are no more lucky than anybody else that has ever played daily fantasy. CSU Ram 88, not more lucky. Maki Supa, not more lucky. Drew Dinkmeyer, not more lucky. The luck evens out. The skill, there's still a gap. You know? Like, the luck in poker is after the cards are turned over. The skill in poker is getting your money in good, making the right equity decision. Yes? So that when the cards flip over, I have a 70 to 90% chance to win that hand. That's the skill aspect. Getting you to put your money in bad of poker. That's how you play that game from a skill point of view. Now, daily fantasy, I need to put myself in the correct equity position, have the right leverage plays, have the correct allocations of certain players, have proper lineup correlation, have the right player in the flex, my latest player down low, so that I can swap to that player if I need to. All those things represent layers of skill within this game. And then it's out of my hands. And then if a player scores a touchdown or gets a PI call and doesn't get the yardage, or gets a bad overturn call, or there's things that can happen that are unlucky to you. You could argue that I lost that first Millionaire Maker that I came in second in 2013 because I got unlucky. Because, what was his name? Hunter, I think was his name for the 49ers. Couldn't get into the end zone. He went out on the 2. Then on first down, I got very lucky that Frank Gore didn't get into the end zone. Then on second down, it was supposed to be a pass play. I got unlucky that Kaepernick was talked into giving the ball back to Frank Gore in the huddle, even though that wasn't the play that was called. And Frank Gore scored, and I lost the first Millie Maker by 0.5 points. There's a lot of luck. There's a lot of things that are out of our hands. But I did put myself in a position to win that tournament, and I've done that over and over and over and over and over again in the last 6 years. So that's the skill. You put yourself in a good position to be lucky. That's it. Anybody can jump in a tournament and just win it. But can they do it again? How about D. Thomas this week? Yikes! I was talking to Levitan about that this morning. So, Levitan this morning said... Okay, no. Levitan yesterday on the Edge Pod, and you can listen to it. He was in his moment talking about that game, about Houston, and he said Demaryius Thomas instead of Hopkins. And so he started talking, and in his mind, he was talking about Hopkins. But everything he was talking about Hopkins came out as Demaryius Thomas, and he said his name like 3 times. And so I said, you realize that if I didn't step in and say, are you sure you mean Demaryius Thomas? What about Hopkins? A ton of people would have been out there playing Demaryius Thomas this weekend. Don't play Demaryius Thomas this weekend. Now watch him score a touchdown. My mentions just light up. How tilted was I over that 0.5 points? I mean, it sucked. I mean, I won $450,000 that week, and it didn't feel like I won $450,000. It felt like I lost $650 because second place was $350K. Al, we need you to get back interested in NBA again. I'm interested. I'm watching games. I'm paying attention to NBA. I'm just, I don't know. Just burnt. I always get burnt at the end of NBA season or NFL season. A lot of content, a lot of hours put in over the last 16 weeks, and I got 4 weeks to go. Skill was choosing to play Stephon Diggs. It was. That was a late swap. The skill in that first Millionaire Maker, I had Frank Gore in my flex. The player that I was playing against, Boonda Fever, who still plays today, had a running back available for the exact salary that Frank Gore was. I knew he had Frank Gore in the Monday Night Football game against the Atlanta Falcons, Week 16, 2013. I swapped to Michael Crabtree to give myself a chance, because he was up very small on me, to give myself a chance to pass him. I had 2 choices. I could just stand pat with Frank Gore and say, well, he's probably going to win, or I could swap out and give myself an opportunity at winning the Millionaire Maker. I did the same exact thing with the Millionaire Maker that I won in 2016. You put yourself in a position to be successful or to get lucky. And you do it over and over and over again. And it's not surprising to see the same people that are doing those things, that are doing the work and playing the game the right way, win. He was mortified when you corrected him. I got to go back and watch the video. It is on YouTube on DraftKings channel, by the way. Josh Reynolds, a good pivot off Robbie Anderson this week. I'd probably go with Pettis. Off to walk the baby. Love your face too, man. Have a good walk. I remember those days. I'll tell you, it gets easier. Wide receivers under 4K. There aren't that many right now. That can always change. Red Sox Revival, thank you for the tier 1. That can always change as inactives come out. I mean, Chris Hogan's 33. Antonio Callaway's 39. We talked about him on the first look. If you want to go back to the Michael Gallup and expect some flop lag there, fine. I'm probably not going to be on that ride along with you. Trent Sherfield is 3,400, caught a touchdown last week, but low volume. James Washington, the best one if Juju's out, in my opinion. Thoughts on Winston and Cash? Don't hate it. I'm okay with that. Need a safe lineup to hold a 15-point lead in season-long DraftKings. This is the final week. You go with CMC, Zeke, Chubb. I think that's solid. Mixon, Herndon, no tight end, or tight end with no Nunwa. I like Herndon there. You get solid floor with a good upside. Cowboys, Pats, or Saints. Defense I never really can make a decision on until like late Saturday night. I think the Saints season play. I think all 3 of those defenses are certainly in play. I like Robbie Anderson. I'm not on D. Thomas. Connor ruled out. Here comes all the Samuels again. I disagree. I think Samuels will be owned, but I think he's in a much different spot than he's been in the last 2 weeks, both on salary and matchup. Kamara versus Chubb, thoughts? I think Kamara has more upside. I think Chubb, I think they both have about a similar floor. I think Kamara has more upside. Just based on the fact that Kamara can have a 10-catch game and Chubb can't. Chubb has to have 22 carries for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns to do what Alvin Kamara can do with 17 touches. Callaway at 39 or McKenzie at 39? I'd have to think on that more, but my first instinct is Callaway. Do you come down from CMC with no Cam? A little bit, but not a ton. I mean, I'm not worried about boxes being stacked against CMC because he's not a pound the rock guy, you know? So stacking the box against a guy who catches passes is useless. They'll just use misdirection to get him going the other direction that you know, it just takes one reverse to DJ Moore to stop that stuff. Right? Like run read option this way with CMC going that way, and then DJ Moore is coming in motion to the other side, and they just flip it to him instead of CMC, and every team runs that play. And that you stack the box against that, and DJ Moore's gone 50 yards down the other sideline. CMC should QB. That'd be scary. Thoughts on Mixon versus Chubb for GPP only? That's actually a very interesting question. They're very similar in price. 7,300 versus 7,100. 73 for Chubb, 71 for Mixon. Mixon's seen a tremendous amount of volume the last 2 weeks, like 30 touches, 29 and 31 touches the last 2 weeks. Chubb at home has been outstanding. Mixon better in the passing game, though. I just don't like the offense, is my issue. Cincinnati's offense has nothing. I think that Mixon will see more and possibly better volume. He'll see similar amount of touches to Chubb with way more touches coming in the pass game. But I think that Cincinnati offense is going to really struggle with Jeff Driscoll at quarterback, no A.J. Green, no Boyd, no anybody on the outside to throw the ball to. They're really going to struggle to move the ball unless Mixon breaks a couple of big ones. Steve, we'll see you Sunday. Be in the gifting mood if you catch my drift. Awesome. Let's earn those spins on that Sunday morning Anti-Tinker cast. Last 45 minutes right before lock. I'm here answering questions all the way up until kickoff. And as a give back to our subscribers, any 5 gifted subs, any 2,500 bit donation to the channel earns 3 spins for the Monday sub giveaway when we spin the wheel. Fleck, thank you very much for the 200 bits, and Merry Christmas to you too. Saquon going to bust again in that pathetic offense with a tough matchup. It's not a tough matchup. I've gone over this numerous times. Anderson or Pettis? Both. As much as we are chomping at the bit to go after Atlanta's defense against running backs, we just plug in any running back against them, right? They're allowing essentially the same number of targets and catches to running backs as the Indianapolis Colts. This is not a bad matchup for Saquon. Vanilla, thank you very much for the 300 bits. Defenses for cash under 2,500. Probably the Saints would be my favorite out of that group. Can I rank CMC, Zeke, Barkley? Zeke, then Barkley, then CMC right now. Last question. Thielen versus TY this week. Probably TY. I like Thielen, though. I think it's a good bounce back spot for him. Cleveland defense is just going to focus on the run with Ward back. Yep. I mean, yeah. It's very easy for them to do. There's no weapons on the outside. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for joining once again. Appreciate y'all being here. We will be live, as I mentioned just before, on Sunday morning, 45 minutes before kickoff, from 9:15 Pacific until kickoff time at 10. That would be 12:15 Eastern time until 1 p.m. Eastern time. I am live taking your questions all the way up until lock. Usually about 12 to 1,600 people show up. We have a good time. We generate spins of the wheel. You guys can get spins of the wheel that we will then spin on Monday for the sub giveaway. We've given away Amazon gift cards. We've given away PayPal cash, money to charity, gifted subs, all on the Monday morning recap stream with the first look going to next week. So click on that show more button below for the description. Come to Twitch, drop a follow on the channel, like this video, subscribe to the channel, click the notifications bell, use your Twitch Prime sub, buy a chair, do all the darn things, and play all the dudes. And I'll catch up to you guys later. Bye.